Hello guys, welcome to Liftoff, your first place where you find everything space and everything SpaceX. Today's video will be about how SpaceX humiliated the whole rocket industry. Are you guys excited for this video? I don't want to make you wait. SpaceX, in full Space Exploration Technologies Corporation, an American aerospace company founded in 2002 that helped usher in the era of commercial spaceflight. It was the first private company to successfully launch and return a spacecraft from Earth orbit, and the first to launch a crewed spacecraft and dock it with the International Space Station. Headquarters are in Hawthorne, California. SpaceX was formed by entrepreneur Elon Musk in the hopes of revolutionizing the space industry and making affordable spaceflight a reality. SpaceX also focused on making reusable rockets. Other launch vehicles are generally made for one-time use. In March 2006, SpaceX made its first Falcon 1 launch, which began successfully but ended prematurely because of a fuel tank leak and fire. By this time, however, the company had already earned millions of dollars in launching orders, many of them from the US government. In August of that year, SpaceX was a winner of a NASA competition for funds to build and demonstrate spacecraft that could potentially service the ISS after the decommissioning of the space shuttle. Falcon 1 launches that failed to attain Earth orbit followed in March 2007 and August 2008. But in September of 2008, SpaceX became the first privately owned company to send a liquid-fueled rocket into orbit. 3 months later, it won a NASA contract for servicing the ISS that was worth more than $1 billion. In 2010, SpaceX first launched its Falcon 9, a bigger craft so named for the use of 9 engines. And the following year, it broke ground on a launch site for the Falcon Heavy, a craft that the company hoped would be the first to break the $1,000 per pound to orbit cost barrier, and that might one day be used to transport astronauts into deep space. In December 2010, the company reached another milestone, becoming the first commercial company to release a spacecraft, the Dragon capsule, into orbit and successfully return it to Earth. Dragon again made history on May 25, 2012, when it became the first commercial spacecraft to dock with the ISS, to which it successfully delivered cargo. In August that year, SpaceX announced that it had won a contract from NASA to develop a successor to the space shuttle that would transport astronauts into space. The Falcon 9 was designed so that its first stage could be reused. In 2015, a Falcon 9 first stage successfully returned to Earth near its launch site. Beginning in 2016, SpaceX also began using drone ships for rocket stage landings. A rocket stage that had returned to Earth was successfully reused in a 2017 launch. That same year, a Dragon capsule was reused on a flight to the ISS. The Falcon Heavy rocket had its first test flight in 2018. 2 of the 3 first stages landed successfully. The third hit the water near the drone ship. The Falcon Heavy did not carry a satellite, but instead placed into orbit around the Sun a Tesla Roadster with a mannequin in a spacesuit buckled in the driver's seat. The first crewed flight of a Dragon capsule to the ISS launched on May 30th, 2020, with astronauts Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken. SpaceX also announced the successor to the Falcon 9 and the Falcon Heavy, the Super Heavy Starship system, originally called the BFR. The Super Heavy first stage would be capable of lifting 100,000 kilograms to low Earth orbit. The payload would be the Starship, a spacecraft designed for several purposes, including providing fast transportation between cities on Earth and building bases on the Moon and Mars. The new Starship prototype for 2021 has become quite sharp. The Starship system's first prototype was the Starhopper low-altitude vehicle, whose exterior appearance resembled a steel-tipped tank rather than an aerodynamic rocket. The last launch of the engine was 500 feet, thus progress is apparent. Subsequent prototypes include Mach 1, which was destroyed during the tank pressure test. Mach 2 was abandoned due to a new design. SN1 destroyed during the containment airtightness test. SN2 successful pressure test. SN4 destroyed in a static fire test, although several previous models were successful. While SN5 and SN6 reached an altitude of 500 feet, thereby solidifying the success of Starhopper. For SN7, it was purposefully destroyed during the ground tests in order to collect data for subsequent test flights. SN8 flew into airspace and performed difficult maneuvers, such as flips, but failed to land successfully due to the fact that the engines could not provide sufficient thrust for a successful landing. This was caused by low pressure in the methane tank. SpaceX then proceeded to test 3 more devices, SN9, SN10, and SN11. All of them stayed in the air for about 6 minutes. Nevertheless, all 3 experienced technical difficulties that led to either a fire or full explosion almost immediately after landing. The 3 prototypes that followed, SN12, SN13, and SN14, did not have time to prove themselves against any of the tests. SN12 was eliminated in the winter of 2020, and both SN13 and SN14 were also not completed. The SN15 then overcame the flaws of its predecessors, reaching 33,000 feet and then landing without a hitch except for a small fire at the base of the ship. By September 15, 2021, SpaceX successfully launched the Inspiration 4 mission into orbit. Inspiration 4 mission is comprised of 4 civilians that come from different walks of life. The crew includes Cyan Proctor, a pilot, Haley Arkonar, a medical officer, Chris Sembrowski, a mission specialist, and Jared Isaacman, the mission's commander. Isaacman is also a billionaire entrepreneur and the founder of Shift 4 Payments. So, he also purchased all 4 seats on the inaugural flight for an undisclosed amount. While the historic Inspiration 4 launch was a success, when it came to getting the civilian astronauts into orbit, it also meant success in other areas. First, it marked the debut flight of SpaceX's new space orbital tourism business, but it also came with a number of milestones. First, entirely non-professional crew to become astronauts. First, black female pilot of spaceflight. Youngest American citizen to fly in space. First private SpaceX spaceflight. Couple those achievements with the mission's original goals of raising $200 million for the St. Jude Children's Hospital and Research Center, as well as conducting medical research during the flight. And we would say that it would be a huge success when the spacecraft returns to Earth. The latest Starship model, SN20, was officially recognized as the tallest rocket ever built in August 2021. SpaceX is hoping to launch its first orbital Starship test flight in the next few months from its Starbase facility in Texas, and a new video captures the company's work so far on the massive rocket. Today, as SpaceX works to complete the Starship SN21 and Super Heavy B5 and prepares to begin assembly of S22 and B6, while Ship 20 and Booster 4 still sit, largely untested. At the launch site, Starbase's existing production capabilities are already starting to outstretch its 2 main assembly bays. In other words, the purpose of SpaceX's new wide bay is almost certainly to double, triple, or even quadruple Starbase's maximum vehicle production rate. And that concludes today's episode. I hope you liked the video. If so, like, subscribe, and turn on the notification feature. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.